We should have a live feed going out. We're going to wait just a minute or so and let the various websites catch up with it. Good evening, everybody. We're going to get started here in just a minute. We're going to make sure the live feed is going out, and then we'll get started. Yeah, okay, we got it, I think, here. All right, good evening, everyone. This is MemphisWeather.net meteorologist Eric Procius having our last Google Plus Hangout of 2014 tonight. Thought that it would be an appropriate time to kind of discuss the upcoming holiday week, travel, weather, and so forth. And I know a lot of folks are probably going to be traveling this weekend, or this week. I heard that it's probably going to be one of the busiest travel Christmases in a very long time, if not ever. On the roads and in the airports and so forth. So if you're planning to travel this week and you're joining us, then hopefully you'll be able to get some information out of this that will help you out. I've got the usual cast of characters with us tonight. I'm going to start off with William Churchill. William, the intern from MWN, and is reporting from our Northeast Bureau tonight. Good evening, William.
Hey, how you doing?
How are things up there? You're in Pittsburgh, or in the Pittsburgh area, right?
Yeah, I guess it's pretty normal for around here. It's just pretty much been right around freezing the whole time I've been here, so. But not too bad.
Not bad. Looks like that system coming into you this week might actually bring some rain rather than snow. That's kind of unusual.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that some more. And next is Kevin Terry, also an intern with MemphisWeather.net. Been the honor of being with me the longest, and we're glad to have him on the Hangout tonight. Hey, Kevin, how are you?
Hey, Eric, how you doing? Glad to be here. It's been fun. I think started in late 2011, and it's been a fun ride ever since, doing off and on. So I'm enjoying it. Glad to be here.
Good, thanks. Glad to have you. And Kevin is going to, he wrote the blog that we put out last week on the history of Christmas weather in Memphis, and is going to use that to have some discussion tonight about some events past. So thanks for being here. And John Maddox, officially with Team Snow Curmudgeon, is on board tonight. How are you doing, John?
I'm doing great. Eric, how about you?
I'm doing great. I know you'd rather be down in Miami with the Tigers right now than you are here, but...
Yeah, the weather's a little nicer in Miami this evening and tomorrow as well than it will be here. So.
Yeah. Yep. I'll remind you if you're not speaking to go ahead and mute. I think Kevin, we're hearing the keyboard.
Sorry about that.
Thanks. No problem. No problem. Yeah, it looks like I'm looking forward to tomorrow afternoon's game of officially taking off work for the afternoon so that I can make sure that I can pay attention to that and. Go Tigers. We'll see how they do. Great season. All right, we are going to go right into it then. I want to start off by looking at weather here in Memphis for the upcoming week, because I think that's what most people are interested in. The vast majority of you are going to be sticking around here, and so I'm going to screen share here, and we'll start right off with some graphics. I'm going to be using this morning's model run of the GFS, which is one of the main computer models that we use. That is the American model. Can you guys see that on there? Somebody give me a thumbs up. Okay. This is basically what we're looking at is a national picture here, and actually what I want to do is zoom in just a little bit and go down to the south central United States. We'll focus on the Memphis area and looking mainly at precipitation. We've got a couple of big systems that are going to be moving through during the week this week, and as it usually is this time of year, we always have two different factors in play when it comes to everybody wanting a white Christmas, and that is precipitation and temperatures, and you have to get just the right mix. And everybody that's been following us or has lived here in the Memphis area for any length of time knows that is sometimes a very difficult task to get those two things to come together just right. It's also one of the hardest things to forecast, as a matter of fact, as well, as usually the scenario around here is and precipitation comes through when it's warm, and then the cold air chases it out. And if you can get the cold air in place right before that precipitation leaves, sometimes you can get some white stuff. But let's take a look at what we've got going through this week. And I'm going to start off here. This is tomorrow morning, and basically what we've got is Memphis right here in the center, and we've got a high pressure off to our east. So we've got nice southerly flow. If you got to spend any time outside today, you know it was a pretty pleasant day for late December, with temperatures getting up into the mid-50s. We do have a system, though, moving in from the west. There's a cold front out here across Oklahoma into Texas, actually right through the plains. We've got moisture feed coming up out of the Gulf of Mexico ahead of this. So this is southerly flow out ahead of it. So tomorrow morning starts off dry, but as we get into the afternoon hours, that cold front does approach. It'll be moving into western Arkansas by around 6 p.m. tomorrow night. We'll start to get some light showers breaking out across the area out ahead of this front. I don't expect any widespread significant rainfall during the day tomorrow. However, I think by the time we get into mid to late afternoon, there could be a shower or two around. Going into tomorrow evening, though, I think we'll start to see more activity along that front. That does get pretty close. This is at midnight tomorrow night. Looks like we're going to be getting into rain during the evening tomorrow night. In fact, that's probably one of our best chances of rain for the next couple of days, is as this front comes through. So that's overnight tomorrow night, but the temperatures will still be warm. It looks like we're going to get up at least into the 50s tomorrow, if not closer to 60 degrees. As we head to Tuesday now, we've got that system pulling off to the northeast. The rain moves off to the east, and we have another low pressure system developing down here off of in South Texas. That is another one that we're going to have to watch pretty closely, because as we go through the day Tuesday, it looks like, I was thinking at first a couple of days ago that Tuesday might actually be pretty wet. It now looks like Tuesday may actually be drier than wet. As that first system moves out, the cold front's to our east, and the low comes up out of the Gulf of Mexico. But you see the moisture streaming in with this low as we head into Tuesday. This is Tuesday evening around 6 o'clock, and you can see a lot of this moisture is going to be off to our east. The fact that this low looks like it's going to be moving by to our east is going to do a couple of things. First of all, most of the moisture is going to be along and east of that low pressure system. So again, we'll still see some showers around the area, maybe Tuesday night into early Wednesday morning. But with the moisture, the brunt of the moisture to the east, and also the dynamics with this system, it actually looks like there's a chance that there could be some severe thunderstorms with this system. There's a slight risk out for eastern Mississippi into portions of Alabama on Tuesday into Tuesday night. So this low is what's driving that, but all of that severe weather would be to the east of that low. And so it looks like we probably are not going to have to worry about that. Certainly can't rule out some thunder. Maybe tomorrow evening as that front moves through, as we get dew points up into the 50s, and perhaps again on Tuesday evening as this system moves by. So there's the middle of the night, Tuesday night. There's the low moving through, and this is basically your warm sector of the system, and that's where you could get some stronger thunderstorms. Now on the back side of this is what we have to watch for as far as our precipitation. Tuesday night looks like another decent chance of rain. This is what we call the deformation zone. It's around the back side of the low pressure system. It's kind of moisture that's wrapping around that low. And when we do get snowfall this time of year or into winter with this type of system, it's typically in this deformation zone. As the cold air comes pouring in behind the low, you get the precipitation on the back side. This is 6 a.m. Wednesday. Looks like the overnight period again is going to be wet. That low is going to be pulling off rapidly to the north. It'll be up between about Louisville and Nashville early Wednesday morning. Very wet if you're headed out Wednesday morning to the east. This portion of the country will be wet. It looks like, though, it's keeping rain around our area. This blue could be a little bit of snow up in the Ozarks into southern Missouri. A couple of the models or previous runs indicated that some of this might transition over early Wednesday morning in northeast Arkansas. Right now I'm calling for a low here in Memphis on Wednesday morning of around 38, 39 degrees. So I think that anything that falls during the early morning hours Wednesday will be light rain here in Memphis. And then as that low pulls off to the northeast, we get some of this northwesterly winds during the day on Christmas Eve. There's still some moisture lingering around. This model is keeping us, this is the 35-degree line, so it's keeping us up around 40. I've got our high on Wednesday at an optimistic 45. We could see maybe temperatures holding in the lower 40s. It's going to feel a whole lot colder than that, though, because this is a brisk northwest wind coming in behind this low. I think the wind chills will remain in the 30s throughout the day on Wednesday, Christmas Eve. Maybe some light mist drizzle. It's possible, can't rule out a few snowflakes, but really am not expecting too much. And certainly the ground is going to be warm enough, and actually the lower atmosphere should be warm enough to for sure not cause any problems as far as travel is concerned around here. And then as we step into Christmas morning, all of that moves out, and actually we've got a pretty progressive system here. So that moves out to the northeast. We've got a high pressure down over the northern Gulf that moves in. The winds switch around to the west. It looks like a very pleasant day for your day on Christmas Day. The winds actually switch around to the southwest pretty quickly behind this system. We'll warm back up into the 50s most likely, at least 50, if not the lower 50s on Christmas Day. Sunny skies, looks like no precipitation around. So those wanting a white Christmas, I've already answered your question. I don't expect a white Christmas this year here in Memphis. And then as we get into Friday, another big cold front comes through, although this one is mostly dry. It looks like the moisture is not going to get tapped out of the Gulf. We could see a little bit of light rain with this system Friday afternoon or Friday evening, but it is going to usher in another round of cold air. So we'll see a warming trend on late in the week after we get through Christmas Eve, which will be the coldest day of the week, and then another system comes in and brings another round of cold air for us next week. Take a quick look here at, let's go to this. This is the same, basically the same model, the GFS model. Temperatures tracked here as well as precipitation. And so we've got temperatures tomorrow up here in the 50s, maybe pushing 60. And then you'll see they fall off during the day on Christmas Eve. Temperatures remain down in the lower 40s. Rebound just a little bit on Christmas Day to around 50 or so. This run of the model is actually pushing us back up to mid-50s at least on Friday. And then you see another cool down behind that. And I think actually beyond that, we could actually be getting even colder than that. So here's what we've got, what I posted earlier today for our social media 6-day forecast, and this gives you a look at the coming week here in Memphis. 60 degrees we're calling for here tomorrow on Monday. It will be breezy, cloudy, 30% chance of rain mainly during the afternoon. What's not shown here is the overnight hours. I expect rain tomorrow night. 50-50 chance on Tuesday, maybe a little thunder with that as well during the day or evening hours, a high of 58. And then as we go into Wednesday, another breezy day, 30% chance of precipitation. Again, I think that's mostly just light rain. Highs around 45. It's going to be a cold, brisk day on Wednesday. Christmas Day, not bad at all. If you're headed out to family members or friend's house or whatever, or you're having folks over, it won't be a bad day at all. A little cool, but not unexpected. It's pretty seasonal for this time of year. That next front moves through on Friday, high of 56, and then Saturday, another sunny day and a high of 46. So that kind of gives you a brief rundown of what we're expecting this week as far as the Memphis weather is concerned. And I want to turn it over to William now and let him kind of walk you through outside of the Mid-South area. If you're going to be traveling this week, William's going to talk a little bit about what to expect, especially the first half of this week. So William, it's up to you.
All right. So I'll briefly go over kind of the national picture and sharing now, so hopefully you guys can see that all right. So to start out, we'll get into that first system, which you can see coming down through the Midwest here. And that is where the main snow concern will probably be with this first system through the Midwest, especially Minneapolis, those areas, North, South Dakota, Nebraska, all out there. They'll probably get the most snow out of this system as it pushes east and then quickly north. And then this is the second system that forms farther south that Eric was talking about. Starts to push north through the south, and this is all the rain we're talking about. So this whole area through most of the eastern United States is very warm, at least seasonally very warm, so not looking at a whole lot of snowfall even all the way up to New England at this point. And as that system pushes off to the northeast, some of that cold air finally starts to wrap around behind it, which could bring some snow towards the end of it in maybe the Chicago area. But overall rain for most of the eastern United States. So as that pushes out, finally might get some snow flurries or maybe some light snowfall out through here where I am in western Pennsylvania. But for the most part, the accumulation will be rainfall. And like Eric said, it's a very progressive pattern. So this is upper level height anomalies, which just kind of show you where the troughs and ridges are. And this is Christmas Eve. You can see that trough through the central United States. And that's what's bringing all this warm air up through the eastern United States. So if you look at temperature anomalies at that same time on Christmas Eve, you can see this is just showing that this is unseasonably warm air through this whole area. So, and as you go through time, that slowly starts to go away as that system pushes north. But it's not long before warm weather comes back too. So, very progressive pattern. Couple of systems, maybe some snow, but mostly in the Midwest is what it looks like. So, most of your travel locations are going to be wet, especially through the eastern United States. But we're thinking mostly rain at this point, unless you're in the Midwest. So that's pretty much what I've got.
I think you may be muted, Eric.
Did. Sorry, I thought I hit that. My fault. Anyway, as I was saying, fortunately this time of year it's a warm system with that low coming up out of the Gulf rather than across the northern part of the United States. So it does have a lot of warm air with it. So eastern half of the U.S. looks pretty wet, and fortunately though it's not a lot of snow falling on the major metros and so forth. Looks like the upper Midwest into the eastern Great Lakes could see a little bit of a white Christmas there, but the rest of it was looked pretty wet. So if you are traveling east on Tuesday into Wednesday, Atlanta up to D.C., New York City, Philadelphia, Boston, expect some delays traveling through that area. They're going to be booked full anyway with airplanes, full airplanes. But you throw a little weather on top of that, and we're going to expect some delays into those areas. So have patience. You'll get there eventually. Fortunately, you're not going to get stuck in a snowstorm in those areas. So it'll pass, but expect it to be wet for sure. And John indicated here that he did not see my graphic that I had up a minute ago, so I'm going to put that graphic up one more time with the forecast for Memphis here. Give me just a second. Screen share. There we go. All right, and you should be able to see that now. I'm sorry. Here's our social media 6-day forecast once again. So we've got the warmer temperatures to start the week. Cold on Christmas Eve. 45 is our high projected for that day. 50 for Christmas itself. We're down around freezing in the morning. Again, that's pretty seasonal. Our average high and low is right around 50 and 32. So pretty much what you would expect on Christmas Day here. Warm up to the end of the week, and then Saturday it looks like we'll be starting to cool down again. Now I do want to also show one other graphic just to show you a quick peek at the long term, because we've been kind of keeping an eye on this. The long-term models have been starting to project a colder pattern as we head into the first of the year, and I know this time of year people would rather see cold than warm. A lot of folks would anyway. So they said, I don't want warm Christmas. It's Christmas, make it cold. So if you can see this is the 5-day average temperature anomalies for the next 5 days. So this is off of the basically the American ensemble model. This is from the 21st today through the 26th. And basically what you see here is a very warm United States. The coolest, the below normal temperatures down here in Mexico, but everywhere else, especially up here in Canada, look at these temperatures, and this is in Celsius. So these guys are running anywhere from 10 to 15 degrees Celsius above normal up in Canada. So that's for the next 5 days, but if we go out one more 5-day period here, you see it flips. And this is starting the day after Christmas through New Year's Day, and we have this great big pattern shift as this system comes through, kind of triggers that off middle of this week, but then that cold front that comes through here on Friday has pretty good Arctic air behind it, and it's going to get a series of cold fronts that will kind of push that down into the U.S. But this is what this model is predicting, and kind of what I've been seeing from others as well, from other locations and other sources, is that we'll start to get into a cold pattern heading into the first of the year. So if you are headed out to the Liberty Bowl perhaps a week from Monday, or have New Year's plans, I wouldn't count on a bunch of 50 and 60 degree temperatures for that. In fact, the models right now that go out to about 10 to 15 days are showing those temperatures could be in the 30s and 40s for highs. So this average the temperature anomaly here is about 2 to 3 degrees below normal Celsius, which would put us with average temperatures in the mid-30s. So we're talking about highs maybe in the mid-40s and lows in the mid-20s on average. Now that's a 5-day period, but you'll have some ups and downs. And then if I go out one more period, this is the January 1st through January 5th. and this gets even colder. So we could be looking at a pretty cold start to the new year, which, you know, if you want the snow and so forth, first you got to get the cold air in place, and then you got to get systems to move through it. And so hopefully this is, if you're wanting some snow, this might be the pattern that would bring that kind of weather to the area. I work for FedEx also, and I can tell you that we are glad to be able to get through this week without a bunch of snow, because that just causes all kinds of chaos. So it's a good thing for the shipping business. It's a good thing for those that are traveling, not getting stuck out in it. So that's kind of the long-range look. We've covered those things. So any of you guys have any comments or thoughts on any of that? John, you're never at a loss for words.
I think it's important for folks to remember, you're talking about airline delays earlier. It's important to remember that it only takes one of the major hubs to have any kind of problems to make your, like if it happens in New York or Philadelphia, that has such a trickle-down effect. But like Eric said, just be patient. Everybody wants to get home for Christmas, including the people flying the planes and directing the planes. So just be patient and be prepared with, you know, to have some delays.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, with as hub centralized as the airlines have become, one location can really mess up the whole thing, and it may not be weather where you're at. It could be that upstream impact that you know, trickles right on down line. So we'll see how it goes this week, but hopefully not too bad. And most people, when they're coming back, it's a little more spread out. Everybody likes to leave the last couple of days before Christmas. It taxes the travel industry a little bit more than when people come back a little bit more scattered. So hopefully that works out that way. I wanted to mention also, right before we switch over here to talk about a little bit of history of Christmas past here in Memphis, that if you do have any questions for us, we're going to be monitoring the WX chat hashtag tonight. There's also a chat window on the MemphisWeather.net Hangout page, so if you go to MemphisWeather.net, click the link off the front. You may be watching it there. Even if you're not watching it there, there's a chat window, and feel free to ask your questions. If you're traveling somewhere specific and want us to give you a little bit of a more detailed look at where you're headed, we'll be happy to do that. So having said that, I want to turn over towards Kevin now and talk a little bit about some of the history of Christmas past, and specifically here in the Memphis area. He wrote a very nice blog last week. Appreciate that, Kevin.
Thank you.
It didn't give us much hope for for a white Christmas, but I'll let you kind of talk through that.
Yeah, well, appreciate that. And as you said, I think most people here in the Mid-South probably realize, at least if you've been here for a while, that the white Christmas odds are not too great. But I decided to take up the task to look up the history, just go through the records and see if there was any argument to be made. And in fact, there really wasn't. And we have records that go back here in the city of Memphis that have been taking the weather observations to go back to 1875. So that's a pretty good length of time that we can look back and see, you know, what Christmases were cold, were warm, had rain, or did any have snow. And so that's what I took a look at. And well, just to start off looking at temperatures, most of the temperatures, most of the years, average Christmas isn't too bad. In fact, it's going to end up the way it is this year. It's going to end up being pretty close to what we would generally expect. High temperatures around 50 degrees, lows maybe low to mid 30s, you know, right around the freezing mark, and skies that partly cloudy, maybe partly sunny, you know, not too bad, really seasonable, nothing too cold, nothing too warm, nothing too stormy, and certainly nothing snowy. But there are extreme years out there, and the coldest Christmas we've had, looking back in the records, in 138 years that we've had, was back in 1983. And if people have been around that long, they may remember there was a major Arctic air outbreak that was impacting much of the country at that time. In fact, in the blog, I posted a map of the national weather summary for that day, and you can see the temperatures were just brutally cold, even down well into the Gulf Coast region. Here in Memphis, the high temperature that day was 16 degrees after a morning low of 0. That's 0, right between the positive and the negative there, numbers that we don't get too often here. So that by far was the coldest. Didn't have any snow, though it would have certainly been cold enough had it there been any precipitation in that area. But that's the coldest that we've had in the city of Memphis. Now, if you look at the warmest we actually have to go way back to 1889. That's how far you have to go back to the warmest Christmas on record in Memphis. And that one was quite a warm one, a balmy 76 degrees. The morning low was 63. That's something you'd more expect in mid to late fall than at the end of December. In fact, that December, I looked at that whole month of December. That was an incredibly warm month. It was the warmest December in Memphis history by far. Highs most of that month were in the 60s and 70s, so there was no cold air to be found that December in Memphis of 1889. So certainly weren't talking about snow then. Now, if we look at precipitation, before we talk about snow, what about rainfall? Well, as you might expect, we do get rainier Christmases than snowy Christmases more often than not. In fact, about 36 times on Christmas in Memphis, we've had measurable precipitation, which is 1/100th of an inch of rainfall or some other form of precipitation or higher than that. Now, most of those years when you look, it was just, no major events, just light, moderate precipitation amounts, rainfall usually, but the wettest Christmas on record in Memphis was back in 1987. There was 4.24 inches of rainfall recorded at the airport in Memphis, which that certainly made for a soaker. And on top of that, that actually came after part of a 2-day system that dumped several inches of rain on Christmas Eve as well. And there was a lot of flooding that was reported in the region with that event. One of the hardest hit areas was West Memphis, Arkansas. And one of the interesting things about that particular year, that was a year where there was about a 3 to 4 week period where there was just some really incredible weather events going on in the area. On the 14th of December, just 11 days before the flooding on that Christmas of '87, West Memphis, Arkansas took hit from a tornado, an F3 tornado. I know, Eric, you've mentioned this numerous times. That was what got you involved into doing weather and meteorology as a career. And in fact, and just after that, to start the new year of 1988, excuse me, there was a major snowstorm. There was like 7 to 12 inches of snow that hit the metro area. So that was really a really active 3 to 4 week period, and that Christmas was the wettest Christmas on record in the city of Memphis, 4.24 inches on Christmas Day. Now, sleet, freezing rain, couldn't find any evidence of any major ice storms that ever happened in Memphis on Christmas. A few days where there were some light amounts of sleet or freezing rain reported, nothing major reported there. So on snowfall, well, we look back, again, 138 years of records in Memphis, and if you want to talk about snow actually falling on Christmas Day and at least sticking, accumulating, well, there's not much to talk about. There's only 1 year in all those records where it's actually snowed on Christmas Day, and that was in 1913. 3.5 inches of snow fell on that day, so that was a fun year, but I don't think any of us were around to enjoy that. And,
yeah, that was a great day. I remember that one.
Yeah, but that's literally the only time snow has fallen and accumulated on Christmas Day. Now, there have been several other years in the past where there have been trace amounts, and basically it just means flurries or maybe some very light snow, but it just either wasn't quite cold enough to stick or just wasn't enough to stick. Several of those years have actually been pretty recently. 2009, 2010, and 2012 we all had a trace of snowfall. Now, 2012 was probably one of the closest calls we've ever had in Memphis to something really special, as that night, Christmas night, there was a major storm system, in fact an all-out blizzard that was going on just not far across the river in Arkansas, and they were getting lots of snow, I believe 7 inches over in Jonesboro that night. Now the tail end of that system came through the Memphis area the following morning, and we got about 1 inch of snow here, but that was a little too late to fall in time for Christmas. But that might be the closest miss we've ever had, and that was just a couple of years ago in 2012. So
yeah, and John was mentioning this off air before we got on here that was I think the only time that the Memphis National Weather Service office has ever issued a blizzard warning for their area, and it was for northeast Arkansas. The winds were howling. Of course, a blizzard warning means you have to have a combination of snow, reduced visibility, and high winds. And yeah, we just missed it that day.
Yeah, sure did. Now, when you take a look, the official criteria that the National Climatic Data Center uses, which is one of the big organizations that compiles all the weather data across the country, they officially consider a white Christmas to be not only any snowfall that falls on Christmas Day, but if you have 1 inch of snow on the ground on Christmas morning. And basically across the country, you observe the snow depth, how much snow is on the ground every morning at like 6, 7 a.m. And if you have 1 inch of snowfall on Christmas morning, they count that as a white Christmas. So if we use that criteria versus just accounting for measurable snow falling on Christmas Day itself, there's actually a few other years that we can add to say we've had white Christmases in Memphis. Now, most of those are not major amounts of snow, but 1998 we had 1 inch of snow on the ground on Christmas morning. I believe, I was young, but I believe that was mostly like a sleet more than a snow event. 1962 we had 2 inches of snow on the ground on Christmas morning. Now the most recent event, I think we're going to talk a little bit more about that here in a second, was 2004. That would be, of course, 10 years ago. That was 2 inches of snow that was reported on the ground on Christmas morning. Now that was also kind of a mixture of sleet and snow. And then 1963, that was by far the greatest white Christmas we've ever had, if you want to look at it this way. There was 10 inches of snow on the ground following one of Memphis's biggest snowstorms ever on record, which happened on the December 22nd of 1963. That was 14.3 inches of snowfall. So there was still around 10 inches on the ground Christmas morning. So those they've kind of been around a little while. I probably remember that one most memorably than any other one. And I see you're showing that graphic. That's the graphic from the National Climatic Data Center that shows the historical probability of a white Christmas using that 1 inch of snow on the ground criteria. And as you can see, the Mid-South and really the entire southern U.S. are in the basically what you would call the bare color, which means the chances are not good, as you would expect when you compile all the data. You're talking about less than a 10% chance, and in fact, for the Memphis area, we're looking at about a 4.1% chance when you compile all the numbers, all the years that we had snowfall, and follow that white Christmas definition of 1 inch on the ground or greater on Christmas morning. Just a mere 4% odds. So yeah, the odds are not good. In fact, if you look at just measurable snow on Christmas itself, we're talking less than 1% chance, since we literally have only 1 year where that's ever happened, at least here in the city of Memphis. So the odds are not good. I think nobody is shocked by that, but doesn't mean it can't happen. Obviously, it has a few times, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case this year with the forecast that we're looking at this point.
John, did you have you had a radar picture up there too? Historical radar picture?
Yeah, this is from the let me see. This is from the Christmas Eve storm, or the Christmas night storm that prompted those blizzard warnings across northeast Arkansas. This is the map, it looks like, as of about 10:30 Christmas, and right along the Mississippi River was the stark dividing line as the storm, remember, was pulling out this direction to the northeast. And we dodged a bullet. Folks up here did not. They got folks up around Corning, Arkansas, which I think is just off the map, got 11, 12 inches of snow with 50-mile-an-hour winds, and just travel from Blytheville down this way on 55 was just brutal, and came across, and we had some thunderstorms. I remember we had some thunderstorms going here. I lived in Olive Branch at the time, and had if my memory serves, we had a severe thunderstorm warning or two, as this was a very dynamic system, as you can imagine. The other earlier map I was showing here is, I don't know if I can get that any bigger. Yeah, there we go. This is from the December 22nd, 2004 storm that we were talking about, where this is what fell on December 22nd. We had 2 inches or so of snow and sleet here in the Memphis metro, and it stuck around. We went below freezing early, about mid-afternoon, the 22nd, and we didn't get back above freezing until we went to 35 on Christmas afternoon. We had about an inch of snow laying on the ground still Christmas Day. So it can snow here Christmas. It just, as we were talking earlier, 2004, we're due for some sort of storm, because one of our more memorable 94. So, it can happen, and we were, again, look how close we were to having a white Christmas back in 2012, less than, across from the airport over to West Memphis, probably 15, 20 miles,
yeah, it's
something
probably
like
about
that.
15, about 15 miles.
Yeah. So, and it snowed and sleeted in West Memphis on all the observations that day, too,
So because it's right along the river, then that has to be the pyramid or the bluffs or something that was causing that, right?
Yeah.
Had to see it.
What is it? The Memphis Yeah, the Memphis Intercontinental Snow Dome or whatever it's
Yes.
called. The Memphis Area Snow Suppression System. That's what it is. So.
Yeah, it was a mess. That's for sure. Yeah, that's nice screenshot there too. I think I recognize that app. In fact.
Yeah, that
Um,
somebody developed, some guy developed that app.
yeah.
This is actually from log back on around then, but crazy.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That I went back and looked at that December 22nd, 2004 storm because that definitely sticks out with me like a sore thumb, and it's one of those that when you get uh, that close to having to get that amount of ice basically and so forth, the dynamics with the system again were pretty strong, but we started off the day with a high on the 22nd of 57, and that occurred at midnight. By noon the rain had changed to freezing rain. It was at 32, changed to sleet about 2 o'clock, and then that was the day that basically we had about 6 straight hours of moderate sleet. And so almost everything that fell during the daytime and into the evening hours was sleet at around mid-20s to 30, which actually it's kind of unusual to get sleet down that cold as well, down to 24, 25 degrees, because usually when you're that cold, the air aloft is also cold, but it takes that warm layer aloft to get the sleet. So it was warm aloft, but it finally cooled out. We ended up with light snow after 8 o'clock. We put about maybe half an inch to an inch of snow down on top of a good inch to inch and a half of ice. And then we sat in the deep freeze, as John mentioned, high of 26 on the 23rd, a high of 30 on the 24th. There were still 2 inches on the ground on Christmas morning with a high of 35. So lows were in the teens. That was a memorable one.
Yeah, I actually remember that particular system. The original expectation was that was going to be more freezing rain than sleet, and we were going to have more of an outright ice storm. So we kind of got lucky there that it all switched to sleet. Still caused huge headaches for travel, but would have taken the sleet any time over the freezing rain. That's for sure.
Yeah, certainly the sleet will cause some travel issues, but it doesn't have the devastating effects of power outages and lines down, trees down, and all of that kind of thing. Yeah. So it's still treacherous to drive on, but it's not quite like the sheet of ice that you get. It's got some texture to it, so it's a little more like snow in that regard. In the mention there of the 1987. Series of storms that went through West Memphis, as Kevin alluded to. That was kind of my sentinel winter, I guess, for when I really decided that meteorology was the direction I wanted to go. And I was only in 7th, 8th grade then. But a lot of us that are in the field have that event that or series of events that drives us that direction. And I remember clearly driving through with my parents, going through and looking at damage in West Memphis probably on Christmas Eve. We went a few days after that tornado went through, and then they got the flooding on top of that, and then the big snowstorm, obviously, a week later around New Year's, I think. So just a series of unfortunate events, as they say. All right. Do you guys have any other thoughts on some of the stuff we've talked about tonight, or any other things you want to bring up?
Hey, Eric,
Go ahead.
I get one question all the time, and people always ask me this. If I want snow and I hear the words low pressure, what is a favorable, and I know, this is not exact science, but what is a favorable track? And, we've got to have the cold air in place because it never seems to work here. The cold air arrives 6 hours too late, or, precipitation leaves 6 hours early. But what is a favorable track for snowfall in the Mid-South if the cold air is in place? What, give people some cities and towns to our south that it looks, if, hey, the slow is going this way, the chances for snow are a little better than if it's here or there.
Okay, yeah, sure can do that. Yeah, there are a couple of favorable tracks for us, and ignore the data that's on this graph, but I just wanted to bring up a map of the U.S. to kind of give you an idea of where we're talking about. So the low pressure that's moving by this week on Tuesday into Wednesday is coming out of the Gulf and going up through kind of through eastern Mississippi up towards, say, Huntsville, Nashville, Louisville. That track is one of those that sometimes can bring us some snow. You have to have a pretty good amount. It has to be a pretty dynamic system, even more so than we've got this week, kind of like some of those we've been talking about already, where you really get a good punch of cold air on the backside of that coming out of northeast Arkansas, and that deformation zone of the precipitation on the backside of the low lining up right over the Mid-South. That's one track. Another favorable one that actually generally produces more snow if you want, say, a heavier kind of wetter snow that might have more than just flurries, is for another low pressure system track is through the northern Gulf. And so you get say a low forming over the western Gulf, say around Houston or so, and then that kind of tracks along the Gulf Coast. And the farther north these get, the closer you are to the warm air. So you really have a battle. If it goes too far down in the Gulf, you've got enough cold air, but the moisture is too far south. If you get it too far to the north, you get into the moisture, but the cold air is pushed too far to the north. So a favorable track a lot of times is, say, from the western Gulf up to maybe around Atlanta, and then coming through the western Carolinas, maybe even a little bit farther south than that, because that allows that cold air to move in on the backside of that, or usually from high pressure that's up over the plains to filter in. And with enough moisture riding up over that low pressure system and into the area, a lot of times you'll get a swath right where that cold air and that precipitation meet that you see the snow. And so a lot of times, we'll get more frequently, you have, you would expect more snow farther north of Memphis because its area is, farther to the north, or climatologically better situated for snow. But if you start seeing that there are winter weather advisories or winter storm warnings out for North Mississippi but not for western Tennessee, frequently it's because that low pressure system is moving along the Gulf, and the setup for that, where the moisture and cold air are best aligned, is actually to the south of Memphis. And so that's almost always where places like North Mississippi, North Alabama, when they get snowfall, it's one of these Gulf lows that does that. The systems that we get flurries with and don't see a lot of heavy precipitation are your traditional cold fronts that move across the northern plains. You bring in a nice big cold front that moves through the Mississippi Valley and off to the east. A lot of times you get the cold air pretty quick behind those, but they're starved for moisture by the time that cold front moves out, and you end up with just flurries behind it. So one of those southern Gulf low type of tracks is definitely the best for producing the kind of precipitation that most people like, which is the sledding variety. So very good question, though, John. Yeah, that's a good one. A lot of people wonder about that. Do we have you guys seeing any questions coming in that we can take?
I haven't seen any question. One person asked, I think, was looking for maybe some more clarification on that term we used earlier, a deformation zone.
The deformation zone.
Deformation zone.
Yeah. William, you were the one talking about that, and you've gone through some meteorology classes. You want to provide very basics here on how the deformation zone works?
Not really. I'll let you pass.
Kevin, you want to give a shot?
Oh gosh. Well, it's just basically behind the low pressure, and particularly behind the upper level part of the storm, you get this favorable area of enhanced lift, and basically that allows a heavy band of precipitation to develop, and oftentimes it will wrap in that colder air on the backside of the system as well. So you can get to some very heavy snows, sometimes even convective snows. Thunder can even happen sometimes in these. They can be very, very strong and dump a lot of snow in a short amount of time, but obviously you have to get the right mix of the strength of the system. And for here in the Mid-South, you've obviously got to get a favorable track, as we were just talking about, to have that zone pass over us. And you mentioned we have it kind of coming over us this week, but we don't have enough cold air involved ahead of time to really make the temperatures favorable for snowfall here. Otherwise, we might have a different situation playing out than we're currently expecting.
Yeah, John's got a picture of it up, and I'm showing it on the screen here. So the lower left satellite shot here, you got a nice cyclonic low pressure system, and it's around the back side of that, basically. So it's on the reverse side of the low pressure area. The middle picture, you can see where the low is positioned, the cold front out ahead of it. The low is just basically looks like over western Kansas here, but the deformation zone again is on the back side, the northwest quadrant. Typically is where you'll find that area. So that's where you get the best chance of cold air mixing with enough moisture to be able to produce the produce the snowfall. But those happen in most low pressure systems, or at least those that are fairly well formed. So it's not just a wintertime phenomena. You get for instance, low clouds and mist or rain kind of falling on the backside. Is typically a cold rain or a cooler than, even if it's a fall or a spring system, it'll be cooler than normal back in that area, and because of the clouds and the rainfall. So, yep. All right, cool. I'll hit a couple of cities then. I'm going to point out for Miami tomorrow, the afternoon high. They're going to have to get the fans out down there, the big blowing fans. 79 degrees for the afternoon high in Miami tomorrow. Just beautiful. South winds gusting. I don't know which way the stadium's oriented, but that may play a favor first and third or second and fourth quarters or whatever for the Tigers. It looks like if you're headed towards Atlanta, it's going to be a stormy week, especially Wednesday. A lot of connecting flights go through Atlanta. So if you're headed that direction, expect delays in Atlanta, especially on Wednesday, but perhaps Tuesday as well for thunderstorms. I looked up in the Northeast. New York City has a high of 60 degrees on Christmas Eve. Unbelievable warmth up there, and that's again ahead of this big system that's moving up. So that's why they're getting rain. Again, expect some delays up in that area, but at least it's not a dumping of snow. And then Chicago looks like rain maybe Monday and Tuesday, and then chances of snow on Wednesday. It looks like it clears out by Christmas Day. So a couple of the big hubs there for you. So if you're traveling, hopefully that'll help you out. I think that's about all we've got. Any parting comments here, John, before we step off?
No, just want to wish all you guys and everybody out there watching and listening a Merry Christmas and happy and prosperous New Year.
Thank you, and we certainly appreciate all of your support and all the retweets and everything for us as well, and joining us on the Hangouts. We've had several of these this year. I think they've been well received, and appreciate you being a part of that. So thanks, John, and Merry Christmas to you as well. Kevin, thank you very much again for joining tonight. Your historical reference there, and for everything you do for MemphisWeather.net. Appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate being here. Glad for the invite, and want to just echo what John said. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everybody out there. If you are traveling, be safe, be mindful of the weather system we've got going on, and have a great holiday period.
Thanks, and William, hope that you get some snow sometime while you're up there in the northern hinterlands for Christmas and the New Year's.
Yep, I hope so. But wish everyone a Merry Christmas as well. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. Thank you, William. Appreciate all that you do as well throughout the year, and look forward to a great spring as well. So thank you guys for joining again. So I'm going to wish everyone again a Merry Christmas. Hope that the holidays go well for you and your families. Thank you so much for being a part of the MemphisWeather.net family out there. If you've got any questions that you have specifically for us, feel free to send those to us on Facebook or Twitter. Myself or one of my great interns will be happy to help you out with that. If you're traveling sometime this week, feel free to hit us up, and we'll help you out with that. We will certainly keep you updated as the weather changes multiple times here in Memphis this week. So follow us on Twitter at MemphisWeather1, on Facebook, MemphisWeather.net, our Google Plus page. This will be reposted on our YouTube page as well and available for archives. So if you didn't get to catch the whole thing, go back and watch it on our YouTube page afterwards. And we wish everyone a happy holidays, a prosperous new year, and we'll join you again sometime early next year. Thanks a lot, and have a great night.